Hey everyone, do you have a hard time picturing that best life scenario? Is it just so easy to get caught up in what the world around us looks like? Well, today we're going to talk about visualization, and I'm actually going to give you 4 exercises that you can use along your spiritual journey. So to anybody who hasn't seen my face before, hi, I'm Elizabeth Blackwell from Blissful Home and Body. And I specialize in setting sacred spaces and helping you to your highest and greatest self. So let's get started. For today's affirmation, we're going to keep it short and sweet, which is you are capable of achieving every goal you set for yourself. So make sure you pick some good ones. So by the time you found me and this video, I'm sure that you've heard the term visualization before. There's a lot of people who really struggle with getting to that picturing of the best life scenario or their dreams into the reality. So before I get into the 4 exercises that you can use to help you visualize, let's just talk a little bit about what visualization is, kind of what it does in our brains, and then some of the benefits that come about from using this practice. My very brief explanation into visualization is this is when we align our thoughts and our emotions with our spiritual and our life goals. It's where we use our imagination to kind of deepen that mental imagery in order to get that connection to our higher self. One of the really cool things is that our brain doesn't know the difference between the reality and what we are deeply visualizing. And in order to kind of bring this point home, I want you to do a little experiment with me. I want you to picture a lemon. Think about cutting into it, the smell of it, taking a bite. Does your mouth water or even your lips pucker a little bit? That's because when you're deeply visualizing something, your body will actually start to react to that stimulus, whatever that you are imagining. I am going to pre-apologize. As I had stated previously, I share a wall with my 15-year-old daughter, and my dog has currently found her squeaky toy and is very enjoyably participating in that in my bedroom. So hopefully the background filter will get rid of all of that, but I can't guarantee. So I opened up this video with the fact that it is so very easy to get caught up in the world around us, our reality. And then it drags us in and drags us under sometimes. But when we visualize on a regular basis, it can actually help to change that reality. We can actually rewire our brain. It's actually called neuroplasticity. So this is where when we do the same things and have the same thoughts, that our brain waves will follow those same patterns and take us to the same places. But when we start to break out of that pattern, when we start to take our imagination to a higher and better place, then we actually start to form new connections within the brain. And then the more frequently that we do that, then the easier it is for those brain waves to travel along those new connections and take us to that different reality, is the way I'm going to state it right now. So whether you're looking at it from a more spiritual side and you're thinking about manifestation, law of attraction, law of assumption, all of that sort of stuff, or you're looking at it from a more physiological standpoint. And for this one, I like to give the example of if you have a presentation to give and you are constantly just picturing yourself hitting it out of the park, doing an amazing job, remembering everything that you want to say, having a lot of charisma, and, really bringing people in, you are more likely for that scenario to happen because you've actually wired your brain to remember things easier and to know as you give that presentation that energy will naturally be felt by others. But the opposite is true as well. If you are constantly telling yourself, I'm going to forget everything and nobody's going to like me and, nobody's going to understand what I'm trying to say. Well, then you are just as likely to then do a horrible job at it, because that's what you've wired yourself. That's the reality to which you've wired yourself to experience. Some other things that I'm going to mention about visualization is that it helps us to get clear on what our goals really are, because it gives us that vivid mental image of what success looks like. It also helps to put us in a positive mindset, because we both see and feel, which I'm going to mention later again, what those goals realized will be. And then it also helps us to focus on the process. And I'm just going to give the example of if you are sitting down in meditation and doing this deep visualization process where you are seeing what all your goals realized both look and feel like, that you will tend to get nudges about what you need to do. You're putting it out there as to what you're trying to achieve. And then when you are getting in touch with that intuition, you'll naturally get those pulls in order to take the steps, in order to make those things a reality. And the last little thing that I'll mention here is that when you visualize, it will naturally help to reduce stress and anxiety, because you're going to this positive place and you're helping to reduce those stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and you're flooding your brain with all of those positive chemicals, brain chemicals, that in order to help to take you to that higher and better place. Now I'm going to give you 4 techniques that you can use within your visualization practice. And the first one I kind of mentioned beforehand, which is that best life scenario. This is where you sit down and you just deeply picture, what does your best life look like? You can project this into the future if you need to. I like to picture it as already being my reality, but that part doesn't really matter as much as one, just being, no matter any of these techniques that you use, being very clear on what it is you're picturing, or start to gain clarity as you go, and then feeling the feelings that you would have within those moments. So within a best life scenario, which is pretty self-explanatory, what is it that you do every day? What are you doing for fulfillment? What do you do as a job? How are you spending your time? What does your partner not necessarily look like, but that could be part of it. But the partner that you're interacting with, what do you do with them? What sort of traits do they have? What is your surroundings? What does your housing look like? What car do you drive? How much money is in your bank? Any of those things. But it is, if you could say that you're living your best life ever, what specifically would that look like to you? And again, as you go through it, maybe you're not crystal clear on it to begin with, but as you go through it, feel into it a little bit more. So if it's the home, as you're going through, is this a house in the mountains or a multi-million-dollar condo in the city? But kind of get a deep image of what each of those aspects look like to you. If you have a very hard time getting to that best case scenario, maybe it just doesn't feel like it could ever truly be a reality to you, I like to then do what I like to call the next step, which is, if you can't get to, or it just doesn't feel like that best case scenario, whatever happened, then I like to just look at is what would be the next step up. So if you are driving an old 1979 station wagon and you're like, I just can't ever picture myself in a Lamborghini. Just doesn't feel like it would ever get there. Okay, fine. Well, what does that next step car look like? Maybe it's just a new car of today that's a base model, or whatever it is for you. But you want to do those next step visualizations in each of the areas of your life. So, what does that next step job look like? If you can't picture yourself being the CEO of some big financial company or running your own business, then wherever you're at, what is the next step up? What does that look and feel like to you? If you're single or you're unhappy within your connection, then you think, what is the next step? What does just dating look like as opposed to maybe marriage of a perfect partner or a long-term connection or whatever you're going for? If you can't picture $1 billion in your bank account, maybe that next step is just having $10,000 that would actually be free to use for something. That would be your next step. But just, you can't get to that best life scenario, then what is your next step in order to get there? The next visualization technique is what I like to call the thank you letter, which is, I like to actually write it out, but you can just mentally figure out what you would say in a letter. But it is a gratitude letter to Source, God, the universe, however you want to phrase it, for all of those things that you're trying to bring about. So it's, again, I like to literally script it out, but to sit down and write, thank you so much for ... And this doesn't have to be the best case scenario, but it's not necessarily just the next step up either. It's any goal or success or anything that you can latch on to and both see and feel what it would feel like if you got to that point. And then you're scripting it out, either in your mind or on paper, to say thank you. I am just so grateful that these things showed up in my life. So again, it doesn't matter what area you choose to focus on, but gratitude is the real point that you're trying to focus on here. The last one is what I like to call the rocking chair experience. And this one is where you are projecting yourself many, many years into the future. This goes well beyond that 1, 3, 5 year experience. This is 30, 40, 50 years into the future when you hit 80, 90, 100 years old. And when you are sitting in your rocking chair and you're looking back on your life and you're going from wherever you are now to that point in time, what is it that you look back and you go, I am just so happy that I hit this point, this goal, this success. And as you look back on your life, what areas will you choose to hold on to as those areas that bring you just the utmost joy? Was it success in career? Was it seeing multiple generations of children come along after you and family connection? Whatever it is for you. What will you look back on as you get into your elderly state and just be so thankful for and say, that was true success, or I am so grateful that I hit that goal? So I hope these visualization tactics helped you. And today's message is that the interconnectedness of all beings just seems so important right now in fostering that compassion and love for one another. That an understanding that other people's journey is not your journey, and let go of judgment. And I know that they're on their individual journey, whatever it may be, and that regardless of how it's affecting you, if it's hurting you, of course, step back from it. But regardless of it, send them love and compassion and understanding, because it's so very important in the world right now. And as I wrap up this video, I'm just going to say that I hope all of this served you well. If it did, I implore you to subscribe and join the tribe. There you go. It rhymes even. That I deeply appreciate each and every one of you. And if I could get you to hit the like button, even better, because it helps others find this channel and these messages to make the world a brighter and better place. So with that, I just hope you all are staying well, my friends. We can actually rewire our brain in order to brighten